to Between a Hot Mess and a Therapist, your not-so-typical self-help podcast for therapists, healers, and helpers. I'm your host, Shawna Lovin, a seasoned therapist with a rebellious spirit. This season, we are redefining freedom, fulfillment, and stability without burning out, self-doubt, or playing by the rules of a broken system. We are cutting through the noise and exploring what it means to truly live life on your terms, not by what society expects of us. No more chasing an illusion of success that leaves you drained, because we are embracing the beautiful messiness, the sometimes chaotic journey we call life. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's dive in. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Between a Hot Mess and a Therapist. Okay, today's episode should be really fun. I'm actually reposting a conversation that I had with Karen and Jazmin from the Therapy Tea podcast. We dive into like this messy, nonlinear journey that I took to become a therapist. I talk about moments I realized that the traditional model wasn't for me, and how human design and other alternative practices gave me the permission to work, operate, rebuild my life in a way that works for me. Y'all know how I like to be a little outside the box and do things the way I do it. So this is a long episode, but I think it's so worth it. So find your favorite comfy spot, get you a beverage. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, guys. Hey, Jazmin, how are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry if it's a little bit loud here. I'm in the city, the big city, one of the big cities.
Jazmin in the city.
Yes, that's right. It's very different than what I've been in the woods for like a year, and now it's like I'm literally on a street. So, you know, if we haven't cut out all of the car noises, just
I think it adds to the
like ambiance. Yeah, it's like ambiance kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so practice your selective attention. Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. Guys, I want to reiterate that something is coming down the pipe, and that is our upcoming series, which is going to be starting after this episode. So next up, we are releasing a series that we've created called Mental Motherhood, and we're really excited about it. It's where we're interviewing all past guests, but we're going to be talking about their unique experience of being a mom while also being a mental health professional. And our goal is to kind of trace through the different stages of motherhood. So we've got people with babies, people with school-age children, people with teens, people who have gotten to the empty nester grandparent stuff. And so we're really trying to highlight like how all the different phases feel and function, and just the unique experience of being a counselor and then also a mom. And what is that like? And so we're really excited to share the series. It's dropping after this episode, not like today, but like next week. So we hope you are excited and that you join us for it and stay on the ride, because I think like our goal is to make it sort of make sense over time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That might not make sense.
I mean, I'm in it, so I'm not in it, but like, because I do not have a child. Well, I have a dog, which is kind of like a child, which we do get to talk about. So I guess we both are in it. Yeah, we both are in it. Anyway, I don't want to give too much away, but yes, you guys stay tuned for our mental motherhood episode. It's really cool. We're getting a lot of really cool feedback about it. A lot of people are really excited about it, and we're excited to share. So we'll have that out. Yeah. Next week, within the next couple of weeks.
Keep your feet on the gas for it, because it's going to be weekly release. So we'll talk more in our intro about it, so you know a little bit more of what to expect. But yeah, be ready for that. In the meantime, though, we have a super, super exciting episode to share with you guys today. We're sharing our conversation with Shawna Lovin, who is a licensed professional counselor supervisor in Texas. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from Johnson C. Smith University in North Carolina, and a Master of Arts in Forensic Psychology from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. Shawna currently works with an EAP full-time, and then she also has a private practice on the side where she offers primarily counselor supervision. She talks a lot with us about how she really has tried to intentionally and ethically incorporate what might be considered less conventional wellness ideas and practices into how she shows up professionally, both as a counselor and a supervisor. So super interesting.
It is. I love Shawna. She's such an interesting person. And I think it's so cool that, like, my favorite part of talking to her, as you can probably tell in the interview as you're listening, I'm pumped about her working as an EAP. Because I remember learning about EAPs in grad school and just being like, what the fuck is that? Like, I don't even know what that is. I did like a presentation on them at one point, and I still didn't quite understand what it was. And I don't know anybody that works for, like, specifically for an EAP. It's a unique role as a counselor, and I'm excited for her to get to share it with everybody, because if you are a counselor who maybe doesn't feel like they fit into the private practice, you don't want to be a business owner. I feel that. Me neither. But you also don't want to work for a big group firm. Also feel that. Kind of me neither. But maybe you also don't want to work for a community or an agency or a residential facility. We need to understand that EAPs are a thing and we need to look for them, but they are perfect for counselors who maybe don't love the more traditional talk therapy stuff. So it's really interesting. She's pretty cool. And she does both. She gets to do both.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that too. She's figured out how to do different things.
She sort of feeds both of her, or I guess she gets to wear a lot of hats. She gets to feed both of her spirits, right? Like, she gets to do her non-traditional stuff. And then she also does this also non-traditional, but, less, I hate to say it's less emotionally draining, but it kind of sounds like that. And that sounds awesome. Because this job can be very emotionally draining sometimes. So if you feel that way,
For sure.
Listen to this episode and look for an EAP.
Or just, like, I think the other lesson that Shawna also talks a lot about is like owning like who you are and what you are going to be like and what is important to you, and then incorporating that in an ethical way, because that's who you are. That's how you show up as a counselor. That's how you show up as a person, and allowing yourself to be your human self, as a professional. So I like that she's really thought a lot about that. So it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're excited to share this conversation with all you guys out there as per usual. But before we get started, Karen, it's your turn. What'd you learn this week about counseling?
So I did a training recently that I thought was super interesting. It was something that I definitely didn't know what I was going to learn before the training. It's a training that I decided to sign up for because I was like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. And I thought it was something, and then it ended up being something kind of different. So that was kind of cool in and of itself. But I took a training that Dan Siegel offered about, I guess it's like his newish book called Personality and Wholeness in Therapy. And, I'm interested in personality as a concept. I deal with a lot of high conflict personalities in my work. And this is something we've talked about on the podcast, we did not get enough help in grad school diagnosing or understanding how to spot certain types of personalities and dysfunction and disorders.
What they can do to therapy.
Yeah, what they look like. Yeah. How that interacts with therapy, how that interacts with relationships, because I do a lot of couples work. And so it'll often be one person has some kind of either mental health diagnoses or has not been diagnosed, but is clearly demonstrating certain patterns and certain behaviors that for the longest time, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Right? Because I don't feel like I got the education that I needed to understand this and why it was interacting with therapy in the way that it was. And so I've kind of been on a quest since then to learn more about it. Right. And that unfortunately is like how it works in this field. Like you don't know what you don't know. And then now you have to go like pay for trainings to figure it out or read books and do all the things outside.
LPCs are just MLMs.
Nobody's going to pay you for, right? So anyway,
It's a scam.
back to the training. I learned so much. Okay. So anyway, so I took this training and it's by Dan Siegel, right? And I thought I was going to learn about like diagnosing personalities, right? You know, because that's ultimately kind of what I'm looking for a little bit. And that's not really what I learned, but I thought it was fascinating. It was so interesting because it ended up connecting to the Enneagram a little bit, which no offense to people who like think that thing is like the end all be all, but like I've always been super skeptical of like anything really like, I don't know, pseudoscience-y.
Well,
and so I was
anything
just like,
that's so
what the fuck
quick,
is this?
it just feels, I think we
Things
should,
like categorize people,
yes,
right?
yes, like so
Like there's
quick.
9 categories
Right.
and you fit into one of them.
Right.
Like just the same way I feel about like zodiac signs, right? Like
Right.
you fit into one of these zodiac signs. Like I think I just like put it all together, right? So I enjoy it. Like as we talked with Shawna about this is interesting that it's
I
like
know.
lining up with our Shawna episode
We did not
too,
plan
right?
this.
I didn't plan this. It's so funny. This is what we're talking about.
I
It's
know.
fucking magic.
I know.
Anyway,
Karen's brain
not
is
down that.
opening
Don't
up.
go down this rabbit hole.
The universe
Look.
is coming for Karen.
So I think this stuff is interesting, but I also like really take it with a grain of salt most of the time. You know, I'm enjoying it. I think that stuff is fun, but that's how I take it, right? Like, anyway, I thought this training was really interesting because one of the things that I really took away from it was a way to talk about personality that I think actually does make sense and is helpful, because personality is one of those concepts that is, I don't know, gone without like a helpful definition perhaps. And maybe that's what's made it feel so frou-frou, pseudo-y, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's like, I know it's real,
So
but also if I were to try to explain it, I feel like I would get so in the weeds and I would just start talking in circles, because I'm currently in a behavior program, like a school, and I'm doing it right now. Like I can't even like start talking about it, because then it's like, well, but then some things are reinforced, and like Skinner is in the back of my head being like, all behavior has reinforcements, and there's the 3 to 5 term contingencies that we need to, and I don't know. But I know that personality is real. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I think I'm like a lot of counselors where it's like, I know it's real, but I'm not about to form my whole therapeutic approach around it. And I see it as sort of like change resistant, which I'm immediately going to be kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, that gives you like so much, you have so much trouble with change resistant situations.
Yes.
Or things.
Yes.
In life.
Yes.
All things
Scary.
are this, but particularly in counseling. So I feel you. But okay, so here's the foundational thing that I think you can see how you interact with this. So the way that he articulates like what is personality, it starts with like personality is how our temperament and attachment interact, or he uses this phrase, dance together to form, like these things impact and form our personality. So how our temperament and attachment dance together is what forms or impacts our personality. So then we can define some of those terms, right? Which again, I found like super useful and helpful. Like our personality then is these enduring patterns of emotion, thought, and behavior that persist across situations and stages of life. Okay. But then if our personality is informed or impacted by our temperament and our attachment, what are those things? And so he talks about let's start with temperament. Temperament as being this inborn or innate propensity of the brain. And that includes our kind of sensitivity and intensity. So like how much of a stimulus, what amount of a stimulus is needed to get a response? That's our sensitivity.
Love it.
And then intensity is how big is the response. And so the idea is that temperament is this sort of natural way of a nervous system. And that relates to how sensitive it is and how reactive it is, or how intense that reactivity is. And so our temperament is this innate or inborn propensity to either, require a lot or a little of a stimulus to get a response, or to have a big response or a little response, right? And that's all on a continuum. And so that I think was really helpful for me to understand temperament in a way that I think makes sense to me. It's not just like, okay, this is just the way you are. It's like there's a sort of a baseline natural way that your nervous system responds to stuff. And that's how sensitive it is. That's how intense its reactivity is. And that's it, right? And then that interacts with attachment. And attachment is the outside world. So your relationship with attachment figures, whatever that is, right? Your environment, let's say. So your relationship with your attachment figures, which is maybe secure or non-secure, is I think the word he uses to kind of encompass different types of secure, lack of secure.
Right.
So then the interaction between these two things shapes and informs and builds our personality. And so then the personality is, again, these enduring patterns. And those patterns is like how we then respond to things, our reasoning, how we engage with the world, how we interact with the world, right? All of those choices, if you will, which is a whole nother thing, is informed by these two primary factors, the temperament and the attachment. And so then he starts asking the questions about like, okay, well, how much of these patterns can we attribute to temperament, and how much of these patterns can we attribute to attachment, right? So that then goes back to like, how much is it innate and how much of it is, learned? And he really kind of takes that, and that's what the training is really about, is about how like it's the interaction that then we can sort of see in how the personality of a person develops. If a person is very sensitive, meaning their temperament is such that it doesn't take a lot of a stimulus to get a response.
Right.
That's what sensitivity means in this way. That person is going to handle situations differently from the very beginning than a person whose temperament is, it takes a lot of a stimulus before that person responds.
Yeah. Yeah. And then how does that impact their development? No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And
how does it then impact how the caregiver interacts with them?
Right. Yeah. Again, these circular topics around personality that we're in our lifetime, we're never going to figure out.
He thinks we will.
Get out of here. Dan Siegel, come on this show and then tell me that
oh my God. Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be really cool. I would love to talk to him. I'd be like, I love all your books.
Except for the one Karen's talking about.
I don't know. I don't love it.
You haven't read it.
I haven't read it. Yeah, so I can't say. Yeah, I probably would. I love all his stuff, actually. So this is fine. No, it is really cool. I like when I learn something like this. Reminds me of a training that I did pretty recently about like metabolic health and mental health, and sort of like the push and pull of that, and how mental health and your behavior really impacts your metabolic health. And then sort of it creates this vicious cycle. So for me, that has meant me asking my clients, how are you sleeping? How are you eating? Have you drank any water today? What's your sugar level like?
Totally.
Like really a lot more, I think, than I did before the training, because I just kind of forget about stuff like that. So I guess maybe that's how we can wrap this up, is like, have you found yourself asking more questions or noticing things more since the training?
Yes.
Yeah, I bet.
Yes. I think so. I think it's helped me, and I think it will be helpful as I like dig more into it and understand what he's ultimately saying better. I think it is helpful for some clients, particularly let's use an example of like a person who really notices that they're pretty sensitive to how other people behave in certain ways. Like sometimes it's really helpful to say like, maybe you're sensitive and that's okay.
I feel like Karen's talking about me right now.
Be a sensitive person.
I feel like Karen's talking about me.
Well, I'm actually not, but if this generalizes to you, then you take it,
Maybe you're right. Maybe this is.
But I mean, we can go there, which is I think that you and I actually do have like inborn differences in our sensitivity. Like it takes, I think, a lot more of general stimuli to get a response out of me than you.
Oh, yeah.
Is that something we learned? No, I think that's just like who we are. It started out from somewhere in the beginning. And then, yes, we've been engaged with in different ways throughout our lives, but that's probably not going to change.
Not now. Yeah, no, not now. We're not undoing this now. I don't have that kind of time. That's super interesting. That's super interesting. That was done through Pessy. Pessy, if you want to sponsor us, that'd be cool. We love you, Pessy.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to give you free ads, so cut that right out.
Okay, we'll cut it. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, we love a good training. You always learn something. And that's the thing about counseling sort of being an MLM is you're always, training and you're always learning something. And you're paying for it probably, but it's good stuff. I mean, you're doing good work, especially you, Karen.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they're good trainings, sometimes they're bad. I feel like it depends, but this training, it really did like get me thinking. And I like that when I get to go to a training and it's not just for the CEs and I actually get to be like, I actually never thought about it that way. I have questions. I'm unsure about that, or like it brings up something in me like resistance or like, that doesn't sound right. Like I need to understand it better. So I like learning. And I think a lot of us counselors do.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to actually go to a training where you're like, actually that engaged my brain instead of just being,
reading from the slideshow.
God fucking damn it. Yeah, I know. It's the worst.
Well,
all right.
Yes. Let's get to Shawna because she teaches us,
I know,
especially Karen. This is a big learning week for Karen.
I know. I like it. Challenge me, guys. It takes a lot of stimulus to get a response.
It's true.
From me.
It's true. Yeah. Me, not so much. I'm excited all the time. It's exhausting. But let's get to our interview with Shawna. I think everybody's going to come away with something this week.
Welcome back to Therapy Tea, y'all. Hey, Jazmin.
Hey, Karen. Hey, Shawna.
Hey, how y'all doing?
I'm doing great.
We're all doing really well. We all have like dogs in the background. And so we're all just like have our arms out, maintaining the space, but we're all doing great.
Thanks for being here with us, Shawna. Tell us a little bit about what you do. Let's go.
Well, I've kind of been all over the place. So currently I am as a supervisor working with associates and working full time still with EAP. And we can talk about that later. And doing workshops, doing master classes, got a podcast, but that's not where I started. So done quite a few things.
Yeah, it's taken you a while to get here.
It has, definitely.
Well, it sounds like what you're doing right now is sort of like a lot of different things at once. So you have the private practice where you do some client work, some supervising, and then you also work full-time doing EAP work. So you're doing multiple things at the same time. And then also like courses and podcasting and all this additional stuff too, right?
Yes, I've been told I do way too much. So
yeah, when I say it like that, right, it does sound like a lot. Well, it does sound like a lot. And it makes me curious, like how does a typical day or a typical week look for you with all that going on?
Yes. So what I call 9 to 5 with EAP, I work 10 to 7, usually Monday through Friday. And so it allows space on the front end as well as the back end of my day to do some things for my practice. Wednesdays is usually associate day. So I see all the associates either in the morning or at night. And then I have clients that are sprinkled in, but I don't have a lot of clients where I am jam-packed. It's here's a day in the morning, here's an evening, I might see a client. And then the rest of it is kind of sprinkled in. So when I feel good on recording a podcast, I will record. I'm always working on workshops or master classes because luckily my EAP job, don't tell them, has a lot of downtime because I'm on a dedicated team. And because it's slow, I'm over here putting the masterclass and workshops together on my home computer. So it just kind of works itself out.
Okay, nice. So you work from home with the EAP So you're able to like have two computers open at the same time.
Yes, I would show you my setup, but
It's okay. It doesn't translate to podcast very well anyway.
Right. Not super well. Shawna, how long have you worked for an EAP? I remember hearing so much about that in grad school, but by so much, I mean they just mentioned it and they mentioned what the acronym means. For those of you who maybe don't know and are too afraid to ask, I feel you. EAP is Employee Assistance Program. Is that right?
yes.
Okay. How long have you worked for them?
Oh, yeah.
So originally, this is kind of where the journey gets funny. So originally I was 2015 to maybe about 2018. I worked for the company that I work for now. And then I left because I didn't appreciate what it was to work at home and was feeling lost and feeling stuck. And so I felt like I needed to do something to get out there and went to a different job for a while. And then my supervisor or director was an asshole. So I left. And so in the process of coming back, I ended up back at the same company. And so I've been back since 2022.
When you work for an EAP, like what does that mean for counseling work? Like, right?
Yeah.
Are you doing counseling work? What are you doing?
Sort of. So there's two sides of the house. On the inbound side of the house, they're doing what we call in the moment support. So a person will call in, they're asking for support, they'll talk to a counselor. Sometimes they're looking for resources. So they'll get connected to resources. On my side, it's more of the organizational risk management side. And so I'm dealing with all of the managers calling saying, hey, you need to talk to this person because they want to kill themselves or whatever. And the dedicated account that I work for, you have to learn to read between the lines because that's not always the case. It's usually something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then the other part that I do is set up all the critical incidents for this dedicated account. And so they will call in and they'll say, hey, someone passed away or this happened on site. And then we set up everything for our provider team to send a counselor or provider out there to support their site.
Okay. Yeah. So this is kind of like a resource. You do like HR sort of thing where it's like a mediation piece, maybe?
No.
Between like, no. Okay. No. Okay.
No, again.
No, they try to put us in the middle all the time. But
Okay. Okay. I was like, how could you not?
Yes. We are strictly supporting mental health in the moment. It is short term. How can I help you in this particular moment? Sometimes it's just they need someone to talk to. Sometimes they need resources. Sometimes they do need to get connected to a counselor. We do get people that already have a counselor, a psychiatrist, and whatever else. But for whatever reason, it's been a minute since they've seen them. Maybe they're in between sessions and they just need support in that moment. You know, people lose their shit at work and they automatically think you have a problem. It's like, no, I'm having a moment right now. You know, I just need some space. So,
So a lot of then what that side of the work looks like, because you mentioned these two sides, right? So it sounds like this side of the work that is about providing in the moment support to a person. And that looks a variety of different ways depending upon what that person is calling for. But then there's the other side that is about sort of providing resources or support to the next layer up within the employee dynamic, right? You talked about like the managers are the ones that are calling and saying like, I think this other person has a problem. What can you do about it? Or what can we do about it? Right?
yes, the managers are looking for guidance most of the time and how we can support this person. And some managers are really good about the support. And then you have some managers that are like reading between the lines. I'm trying to get rid of this person and, you know, let me call EAP so that they can get in the middle of our mess. And this is where the HR gets like convoluted. And
oh, shit.
We can't do that.
How do you figure out what's the difference there? Like which one is happening?
I guess it comes with skill and knowing our account and knowing, you know, you sort of have scripts
when you're talking to these managers, and we're going to call them employees, and kind of going in like, this is what we have to say. We have to do the confidentiality at the beginning of the call.
Right.
We have to ask for demographics and all these things. And I've just gotten in the habit of saying, this is what I can do. Anything outside of that is in-house to your company and your HR department. Even though we still get people still trying to get us mixed in their HR stuff.
Man, so you would think that being in an EAP, so many of the boundaries are kind of set in front of you, but it sounds like you also have to be a boundaries queen about this whole thing. Like maybe especially so.
Yes.
You have to know, like, no, I can't do that. That's too much. I'm only doing these things. Yeah, because they're going to push you anyway. Right.
Right.
Dang. That sounds hard to do, actually.
It sounds much more complicated than I actually thought of. When I think of an EAP, it actually sounds a lot more complicated.
I get in trouble a lot for not being warm and fuzzy, though. So
yeah.
And it's just it's my style. So that's the thing. I have a more solution focused, short term style in general, and I'm more conversational, and I don't use a lot of clinical jargon. And so the model at work is wanting you to be a certain way, and it's way more warm and fuzzy than I actually am. So,
oh, really?
That's hard.
I guess I misunderstood. I would assume, kind of based on what you've described, that the EAP is not looking for warm and fuzzy. They're looking for check boxes. They're looking for like a sort of formulaic thing, but you're saying that's not really how it works.
Think of it more as the customer is always right.
Oh no.
Does sound quite therapeutic to me.
Right.
No, not always.
That's correct.
Oh my gosh. I'm also thinking about the constant shifting that goes into this job. It sounds like you're constantly having to shift. I mean, how long do any of these calls or conversations last? Like with a manager or with an employee who's like, hey, I need in the moment support. Like, are we talking like 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes to an hour? Like, how long are you actually interacting with these people?
So for the critical incidents, it's usually about 15, 20-minute call. You're just really getting the information to set that up. But for the actual management calls, it could be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, if not a little bit longer. And most of that time is actually spent with the associate. Sometimes you feel like you just want to reach out and touch somebody because they're just not getting it and they're just not understanding. It's just like, or they're making stupid, dumb decisions. And you're just like, what the hell were you thinking? Like,
yeah.
And so you have to balance more of that than the clinical piece sometimes, just because they're young, they may not understand, they're having trouble adulting. I mean, it's, sometimes I'm the mother, sometimes you are like the mentor. You just take on these different roles depending on who you're talking to and what they actually need.
And are you mostly talking to them on the phone?
Yes.
Wow.
Like all audio, no visual.
Yes, correct. No visual. So I usually have my jammies on.
Yeah, I mean, okay. And so you're saying you have like a dedicated account, which means like in your EAP, you work for like this particular company.
Yes. Okay. So as a whole, there's hundreds of accounts. But the team that I work on, we have one account that we deal with, and that's it.
Wow. And is like everybody on your team a counselor?
Yes.
Licensed like you?
Yes.
Wow. Fascinating.
I know. This is a weird question, but this is a W-2 position?
It is a W-2 position.
Well, I ask because, our profession is notorious for 1099s all the way down. And so many counselors, that's just not doable. Like, that's just not, especially when you're first starting out, like, you got to actually be able to make money. So on this topic, you don't have to tell us how much you make or anything like that, but do you get paid like hourly or is it a salaried position?
It's salary and it does have benefits and it has perks. So it's nice. We have the opportunity to work overtime. So I've been working a lot of overtime lately to pay for vacation. So
no kidding.
Okay.
That is so cool.
How
That's
does
so
this
cool.
blend with like your private practice? So, what Jazmin asked about, like, when did you start working with the EAP? Like, when did you start your private practice?
it originally started maybe about 2018 officially. So that's kind of when I started seeing associates. And then on that journey, I started seeing clients and then quickly learned that I don't want to see clients. So I mostly work with associates. I have like a handful of clients just because they started with me when I started all of that.
Yeah.
And I actually like them. So I'll let them stick around until they're ready to go. So
Say more.
Oh my
about
God,
this.
I love this.
I decided I don't want to see clients. We are into this.
I
Tell
feel
us
so
more.
seen. Also, let's just talk really quickly about how Shawna just said, I like these people, so I'm going to go with them. Like, you're allowed as a therapist to do that, actually. Like, if you're not vibing with someone, I used to think that was just not a thing. Like, I have to be with this person. Even if 3 sessions in, I get in and I'm like, I have to breathe before going to see them. Like, I'm like struggling, but you're allowed. Yeah. You're allowed. Thank you, Shawna. Okay, now.
I will give you all the permissions that you have been told otherwise. So let's start checking off the boxes.
Yeah, there was like always a message of like, if you're not vibing with the client, like, what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?
And you need to like work on that. And Shawna is here to say like, no, I just don't. And I love that you said, like, I just realized that I don't want to see clients. Can you tell us more about that realization? Like, what do you mean?
I think what happened was because I've always had a full-time job, which means I've always worked with clients in different capacities, IOP, in the jail, more private practice settings. So I've kind of been all over school district. I've been everywhere. And so when I started my practice, it was first, I was just like, I don't know what types of clients that I want to work with. It's kind of really what happened. But I knew that I was like, okay, we're going to do associates. We'll just start there and we'll just see how it goes. But then right around, it really was around COVID, where everyone was like, hey, we need counselors. There's people that are needing support. I was like, okay, well, let me dip my toe in and got into it. And then it just, for some reason, it didn't sit well with me. And there was something about the energy that just didn't sit well with me, but I stuck with it because I'm like, okay, I got to have clients. And then there was the issue of that I don't take insurance, and I tried that and that just didn't work out well. So I X'd that and went back to cash pay only. And the clients that want to be with me, they've either, I've had a few that have come through and said, hey, I want to use my insurance, but I can't find anybody that I like, so I'm going to see you. Okay, let's do this. And then there's others where they don't want to use their insurance at all and are so happy to just do the reimbursement part. But I just think ultimately it was the energy of working one-to-one, and it was very draining for me emotionally, physically, immensely. And it was just, I couldn't figure out like, okay, what was the difference? And I think somewhere along that journey, that's when I really got into human design, because that was kind of eye-opening on how I was operating as a person. And it just made sense and it clicked. And I'm just like, okay, well, fuck these clients.
Yeah, fuck this whole life that I'm expected to live. Yeah, as a private practitioner.
I guess, hold on for a sec, because you initially decided you wanted to go into private practice with the goal of being a supervisor, and you took on some supervisees and then also took on some clients. Did you notice that you were like, you know what, I really don't want to do the client work, but I still really like doing the supervisory work?
Yes.
And how is that different?
I guess because part of it is I feel like I'm reaching back to people coming up behind me. And then there's a layer of, there's a lot of shit that we didn't learn in grad school. And I feel like it's part of my duty to teach newer counselors these things.
Yeah.
And there's a layer of practical application that is not taught. And there's so many supervisors that are super rigid.
Yeah.
And I am not. I am the opposite. And I was actually looking at the numbers of the number of supervisors here in Texas. There's like 26,000 LPCs here in the state. About 6,800 of them are supervisors, but only about 25% of the 6,800 are actually working with associates.
Whoa, weird.
What?
Right.
Supervision staff, like I've heard supervision stats before, and they are about that bleak. Like,
Yes.
it's wild. It is so wild. Also, looking at like, I don't know if it's there anymore, but those spreadsheets like on BHEC where it's like, look at all these supervisors you can have, but actually half of them are, I don't know, maybe not alive. I don't know. I've benefited the doubt.
Right.
Like, they just will not respond. Or it's like, this person isn't even LPC anymore. And like, the supervision world is wild.
Yeah. It is. It's been a journey within itself to just develop the skill and to work with the associates. And I think now, after all this time, I've kind of gotten my foundation of how I work with associates and letting them have the autonomy that they're looking for, but yet making sure they have the skills that they need and the knowledge when they're done. Mm-hmm. And I tell them as they come in, you have at least 18 months with me. So you can make this the best or the worst experience as you choose, but it's your experience. And if it's something that I'm not doing or telling you, you have to tell me so that I can make that correction and help you so that when you're done, you don't feel like, oh, I'm just thrown out to the wolves. You know, it's, right. I'm actually ready for this. Even though they tell you that they're not, they're more ready than they say.
I love that it really sounds like you've found, at this point in your professional career, you've really found how to kind of assemble the pieces together in a way that connects with yourself authentically, like the work you're doing in your private practice with supervising and how you supervise and the clients that you do work with and how you work with those clients. And then the EAP part, you've sort of like figured out how to fit pieces together that sort of align with how you want to be as a practitioner. And that's really cool. What I am curious about is the whole journey to get there.
Me too.
Bit.
Yeah.
Can we go back a little bit and give us
like
a sense of like
chomping at the bit.
Yeah, like why did you even get into this field? Like what's your original, like what was the original impetus of your interest in going into counseling?
It wasn't always counseling though.
Okay. So where did it start?
If you were to ask me when I was a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would have told you probably a pediatrician. And somewhere I figured out I was not great at science and was like, okay, I can't do this, but how can I help people? Because I want to help. And I did have counseling as a child after my father passed away. And so that was kind of like the first time I was introduced to it. But many moons later, it still wasn't something that I thought I would be doing at all. Not at all. And when I actually graduated college, I actually started teaching in special ed and started grad school for a master's in special ed. As much as I fought not wanting to be a teacher because my mom was a teacher, my aunt was a teacher, like everyone was like teaching. I was like, I'm not doing that. But that's what I did. You know, I guess because that's what was available.
Yeah.
And when I finally decided I'm going to actually go back to school to get something that I wanted, I went to grad school in Chicago. I went to the Chicago School of Professional Psychology and started a master's in forensic psychology with the intent of being a police psychologist. But somewhere on that journey, I realized that I needed to have the PhD, not just a master's in order to do that. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So the story goes, I was working on my thesis, was almost done. And while I was making corrections on the thesis, I was doing this overview of just like the mental health court. And the person or the entity, the company that was kind of overseeing it, the woman who was running the program came back from maternity leave. And she was like, hell no, you can't do this. What the fuck are you doing? Kind of, if you continue on with this, I will submit a complaint and you can't get licensed.
Wait, Shawna.
Bitch.
You were just doing like
a student.
I know. First of all, you were a student. That's wild. Second of all, like she's treating you like some kind of weird undercover journalist or something.
Right.
Like, why are you getting so mad? You're just looking at the program. You were looking at the mental health court and like, I mean, that's just what the thesis was about. Why is that a big deal?
It was just basically pulling numbers and stats and just kind of synthesizing everything and just, is it working? Is it not? And that's really what it was about.
I would think she would want to know the answer to those questions.
Right.
Exactly. But she said no. And so that meant I had to go back to school and say, hey, I can't finish this thesis. And they wouldn't approve a new topic. We had trouble with that. There was no approval of a new topic.
Holy fuck.
And I'm like, okay.
I would have lost my shit. I would have lost my ever-loving shit.
I almost did. I almost quit and walked away and was like, fuck this. I can't do this. And at the time, my now husband, we were dating, and he was like, no, you can do this. You have this. Let's figure this out.
What a love.
And
I know,
right? And so I ended up doing an internship. It was a great internship, actually. I had to drive an hour and a half to it, but it was a great internship. I did the internship, and because there was a time frame on being to do the internship, I decided to take a couple extra classes, which would allow me to take the exam, the counseling exam, because I wasn't set up for that. And since I was going to be there, I was like, okay, let's do this. And literally, if it wasn't for that, I don't know what my counseling career would have looked like. I became licensed, but I waited till I got to Texas to do that. So
the original plan when it came to doing your thesis wasn't going to include licensure. It was just going to include doing your thesis so that you could then stair step into a PhD and not necessarily do the licensure stuff to be a professional counselor, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I wasn't even on the path to be a licensed counselor at all. Not at all.
That's when you sort of pivoted during this internship and took these additional classes and was like, all right, I guess I'll just take the test.
Yes. And I wasn't sure I wasn't going to pass the test.
Yeah.
So.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Exactly.
This must have been a pretty transformative internship. Is the internship kind of the catalyst for it? Like the catalyst for change for this?
Not necessarily. It was working with, in a way, yes. It was working with youth who had gotten in trouble, and they were court mandated to do this treatment type program. And so it was out in the country. So sometimes they would work with horses, and we would do educational components with drug addiction and other life skills. And, they're teenagers. So it was pretty cool to just do that. But it really wasn't about working with clients either. And that could be part of the reason why I don't like working with clients now, because that never was part of the journey in the first place.
Right.
Yeah. It sounds like at a certain point you pivoted into this license. We're like, well, I'll take the test, I'll get the license, and then I'll figure out what I can do with said license. I don't even know what do I do with it?
That explains it.
Figured it out later. Oh my gosh. That's nuts.
Yeah. What a non-traditional route to this profession.
This is one of the most non-traditional routes we've heard so far, I would say.
Right. Yeah. I just kind of got into it, fell into it. But that did open the door to other things, because in the process of going to school, I was working at the jail and actually had to quit working at the jail to do the internship just because of time. But I was working full-time at the jail doing mental health intakes in the jail, which is why I have amazing diagnosing skills and can probably talk to you and spot just, if you're bullshitting or there's something legit there.
That is something, Karen and I literally just talked about this in one of our other intros. One of the things that we have both experienced in client work is the gaps in diagnosis, especially when it comes in grad school, right? Especially when it comes to, say, personality disorders. So many clinicians just are not aware, I think, of personality disorders and how they present, maybe how they present in different people. We got one diagnostics class, barely.
Yeah, and it's trying to cover the whole DSM, and it's
the whole thing.
Thick, y'all.
That's crazy. So good for you.
Well, it's you didn't learn it in grad school. You learned it through your work, at a job.
Correct. Because when you work at the largest, at the time, it probably still is, the largest single site psych facility and jail in the United States, where they process over 100,000 people, criminals, whatever, a year. As an intake, you are seeing a few hundred a night. And there was probably like a team of like 8 of us. Wow. Every night. You see a few hundred people. So you get really good at trying, because you have to process all these people. You get really good at just picking up the bullshit, and you get really good at who are your frequent flyers. You get really good at like just who really needs the support and that we need to send them up to the psychiatric unit. And part of our role was to do a rule out diagnosis for the psychologist and the psychiatrist to look at.
What do you mean a night? Like 8 hours? That's hundreds?
Like 3 to 11. 3, like,
okay.
Like,
okay.
Like shift.
That was, yeah, that was my
team of 8 though. Team of 8.
I don't know. That still sounds like a lot.
Yeah, there was like maybe 7 to 10 of us on any given night. So somewhere in there from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. where you process all these people. Whew. So they're getting processed through the jail itself. They get processed through mental health screening. They get processed through medical. They get their pictures taken, fingerprints done, and they just basically walk around to different stations until they're done. And then once they're all processed in, then they get split up to whatever division or house division, whatever they're going to go to at that point.
On the one hand, that sounds like really intense and slightly like draining from an intensity standpoint. Like it's just a lot to do in a short period of time, but it also kind of sounds boring to me. Like the same thing over and over again every day. Like next station. What was your experience?
Well, we were in our little bubble. So it's like the way it was just this big room. So there's just so much going on around you. And you were just kind of like at your station, kind of zoned in, trying to just move people because you had a certain amount of time. And it really took us a few hours to just get through all the people. So we really didn't spend the entire shift processing. We spent maybe half the shift processing. So...
Whew. Sounds like a lot.
No. And I know you're saying that this is boring, but I can't imagine this was necessarily boring. Like it's a psychiatric, like incarcerated facility.
Boring in the sense that you're seeing the same things over and over again, day in and day out, I guess, is what I mean.
No, I think it was more interesting because you didn't know what you were going to get every day.
Yeah, okay. That's what I would probably assume as well. Like the jail environment or like the prison environment is alive. Like the air is electric. It is. We talk a little bit about this with Liz Stein. She works in an inpatient and PHP, like anxiety and eating disorders, I think. But we worked at a juvenile detention facility together. Those types of environments, it's almost addicting. Like she kind of describes it as like there's always something happening. Like there's always going to be something happening. And it's intense, but it sounds, I don't know. To me, it sounds so fun.
It was. I mean, I didn't spend all my time doing intake because at some point I went upstairs into the hospital actually. And was kind of more like a psych tech in the hospital on one of the units. So there was that piece that gave a little bit of difference, but yet, you're still working in the jail and you didn't know what was going to happen when you got there. So
at any given moment. Yeah.
Right.
Things can turn on a dime so quick.
Right.
How did you shift in your practice from working kind of in criminal justice applications, or did you stay with criminal justice work for a long time?
I think it was a slow transition out because after I finished school and graduated finally and we got married, we transitioned here to Texas. Okay. And so my first job here in Texas was actually a parole officer. And I was actually working on my clinical hours at that time. And it wasn't giving me quite enough. And then so I transitioned into working for the drug court here. So I did that for a few years. Then it kind of morphed into the hospital because I was trying to get the clinical hours done, that 3,000 hours I got to do. So I was trying to get it done, and I started working at the hospital for extra money, extra time, extra hours. And then that turned into EAP, or not, sorry, EAP, but IOP. And so I did IOP for a little while. And then that was when I transitioned into EAP after that. And so it's been kind of like a slow transition over time.
Yeah. Through different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Through those jobs, like, I mean, I'm sure you had a supervisor. Were there moments that you would sit back and say like, okay, what do I want to do with this career? Or was it just like grinding, trying to get your hours and not necessarily reflecting on that as much until much later on? Like, because it's sort of like when you're talking about your journey, it sounds very much like you were like working, going to school, and just like, I don't know, living in the present moment. Or was there a lot of like, okay, now that I have this license that I didn't plan to get, like, what do I want to do with it long term? Or was it just very like, get through the next year, get through the next 3,000 hours, you know? Like, how did you approach it?
I think it was more of let me get through the next point, the next phase, the next thing, because I really didn't have direction. And I think this is how I work with the associates, because a lot of times we come out of school and we don't have direction. We feel like we have to do everything. And it's just like, no, what do you want to do? Let's try to figure that out while you have this time. And I didn't really have that. And so it was more so, what can I do with this? Or finding new ways that I can use my license, or what felt good without trying to necessarily be in the box that I totally hate. And then there's other things like my personal journey, my personal health journey, which probably shaped a lot of where I'm at now, because that started in 2009.
What do you mean by that?
So in 2009, I was diagnosed with fibroids, and there were at the time 11. The largest was the size of a grapefruit. And these are like non-benign tumors in your uterus.
Yeah.
And they tell you, oh, you can't have kids. And me and my husband had been married, 2 years at this point.
Oh my gosh.
And then it was just like, what do you do? And then the doctor tells you like, oh, well, if you have kids, they're just going to come back. And so I wasn't satisfied with what they were telling me what would happen. And so I started to do my homework and research, and found that there really wasn't a lot of research around it. There really wasn't enough. At the time, it's so different now, but at the time, they basically tell you if you want to have kids, you have to have surgery. And so I didn't want to have a hysterectomy, because then you have no option to have children. And so I had a myomectomy at the end of 2009 with the hopes of possibly having children. And that's the journey basically they tell you to go on. But I wasn't satisfied with that. And so I started doing homework, and that's how I became a self-taught herbalist, and started basically cleaning up my diet, cleaning up like the toxins, because they're freaking everywhere, like in your food, in your products. They're just like fucking everywhere. And just making small changes. And I think that was how I was able to sustain for a long time, because the doctor would tell me, I can't believe that you still have like really tiny ones and they haven't grown. They haven't done anything. You don't have any problems. That's because I've made changes. And these small things on this health journey led into, I think, the more woo I got, the more into human design I got, the more into tarot and crystals and like all these other things. Not that I practice all of them, but it's part of the journey of how I operate now. And so
just as a person in general? Is that
as
what you
a
mean?
person in general, yes.
Yeah.
But I started to see in particular how human design can be helpful for, say, associates or just other people or counselors in general, to how we can operate more in alignment and what is more true to our own unique energy. So that's kind of, it's like took a turn, a roundabout, and the two kind of merged together, which is, I think now, like when we started, this is the foundation that I have built, but it's taken time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, oh, yes, I was going to be a counselor and this is the kind of counseling that I'm going to do. Like, no, it was not like that at all. It was literally figure it out as you go.
Well, and it sounds like figuring out what works for you as a person in your own life and with your own, the hurdles and the challenges that you're trying to grapple with as a person, then started to connect maybe with how you practice as a professional. I'm curious, how do you navigate how that blend looks? Like how do you navigate your personal beliefs and where you practice as a professional, right? Like the things that I do in my daily life that I know work for me versus like the things that maybe my clients would benefit from. How do you handle that? Because I think that's something that we talk about in grad school, but nobody ever teaches us actually how to do it.
Yeah, I think that was something I kind of gradually started doing with like more so some of the individual clients that I still have. But it started with a conversation of how open are they to alternative practices? Not saying that I'm going to teach you, not saying that you have to do this, but if the door is open, then it can change the conversation that we're having during our sessions. And if you come to me a little curious about something, then that's a conversation that we can talk about. And then I can give you maybe, oh, here, you might want to check here, or look at this person because they have something that you're looking for. And I think I'm still working on that. But at the same time, it's more, I think, of the educational piece that comes up quite a bit because, like I have a client now where she wants to learn more about her human design. And so basically I'm pulled her chart and reading her chart and so that I can put something together and basically give that to her so that she can kind of process that herself and then come back and ask me what questions she needs to ask and how can I implement this? How can I help make these changes? There's a therapist that is I believe she's in Atlanta, who teaches other therapists how to be that unconventional therapist and like put it in your informed consents. And how do you structure yourself? Because she actually she's a doctorate in social work. And that was her dissertation was all about that. And so she's developed like her practice around this. And so she's teaching other therapists kind of how to do that. So
yeah, like the technical aspects of integrating maybe integrating alternative practices ethically into counseling work.
Right. And then there's a lot of stuff that is not in our rule book. And it's just an assumption that this is how we work, but it's not really there. So I don't know. I toe the line quite a bit.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about human design and how you discovered that as something that is important to you as a person, and then how have you figured out how it looks professionally or how it connects maybe with your profession?
Yeah. So the easiest way to describe it, it's just human design is your energetic blueprint. It's your unique blueprint. And it shows you how you are supposed to operate as a person or could operate as a person based upon your design. We are different. Our energy levels are different. We're uniquely different. So if you were to take your average standardized personality test, MMPI, the Enneagram, I don't know, just pick one, add astrology to that, and then put that on steroids. That's basically human design.
God, Shawna, I love how authentic and transparent you are and so down to earth you are about what you self-described as like these woo-woo things. Like from the outside looking in, counselors are really leery about this kind of thing because of that ethical, I think, now I don't know if this is true for everybody, but I guess I can only speak for myself. Like when I look at someone who's doing even some like EMDR practitioners, like I'm like, okay, there's a million different ways to help people. My way of helping people is going to be different than the next person. Just like I tell all clients, like, if this ain't working, go somewhere else. Like go somewhere else. There's a million different ways of helping people. But I think part of the reason why I am so nervous about some of these alternative practices is because when you do hear about them, it's like we're overstepping or like we're not doing this in the most ethical way. But you are so like aware. You're not trying to deny. You're not trying to say like, this is the best way. You're saying this is the way that works for me. And this is what I include in my practice.
Yes, exactly. So the thing about human design, because it's so unique, when you pull your chart, there are 5 different energy types. And within the 5 energy types, there's like a million different combinations, ways that could look. And so when you start to kind of pull apart the different pieces of it, you understand like just what you should be doing or what you could be doing. And for me, I am considered a 3-5 emotional projector. So meaning I make decisions on emotional waves. I'm a projector, so I am more not reserved, but kind of, I'm a guide. Let's just say that. I'm a guide, I'm a teacher, I'm a mentor by that, which naturally I'm anyway. Mm-hmm. And then as a 3-5, I'm an experimenter. So I like to experiment with stuff, which probably hence all the jobs I've had and used the different zillion platforms and whatever else. And then as the 5 side, it's how can I take what I have learned and experiment with and teach that to the world, not just my community, but to a larger collective. And so when you live according to your type and your energy, you just operate differently. So to backtrack a little bit, I knew about human design way back and was like, what is this? I looked at the system or the chart and was just like, what the fuck is this? This is confusing as hell. And then just kind of let it be. And then sometime after COVID, when I realized I don't want to see clients, I was like, okay, and my energy is not right. Let me see. Let me look into it.
Let me be curious.
Right. Let me be curious. And I really looked at it and was blown away on how accurate it was on experiences I have had throughout my life, and that the experiences reinforce what this is telling me. And I'm like, okay, let me lean into this personally. Let me just lean in. Let me see how it goes. Let me see what happens. And the biggest thing that it shifted for me was self-care and how I was just operating that way. And how I realized that I am not a generator. I'm not a manifester, like some of the types that are like, go, 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 and can do these things. I am not. I have to sit back. I have to wait. There's certain things that I need to do. And when I started doing that, I noticed just the shift in me and my energy, how I was talking to my husband, how I was talking to my kids. Like, it was just different. And when I was like, okay, if I'm getting so much out of this, and how can I bring this to other people, other therapists? And I started using it with my associates. And now they're curious. And now I'm getting associates that are like coming in the door that are curious about it. And so we just pick apart their chart and how can you apply this? And it's not that we're making big shifts at once. It's small little changes over time. That's like my office right now looks a little skewed because I had my desk facing the other way. And according to my design, my back needs to be to the wall and not to the door. And so now I'm shifting my office around so that it fits and I feel more aligned and more kind of in a space that helps me move with ease and flow.
It sounds like it initiates a lot of self-reflection. Like you're kind of always self-reflecting, like checking. It doesn't sound really all that different from like mindfulness, like where it's just like you're checking in with yourself, you're like, is this working for me? How can I change it? Like just a lot of self-reflection.
Yes, it is. And that's why everything you do or everything you change, they call it an experiment, because you're going to try it and see, does it work? If it doesn't, then you move on. If it does work, that's something you keep and you keep doing it. But yeah, an experiment.
Just to take this back, once you started finding that your connection with human design and your interest in it developed into this place of, okay, I'm learning about myself and I'm reflecting on myself and I'm going to make some small changes and I'm finding that that's feeling good, that's really working well for me. And then you started sort of bringing it in with your associates. I guess I want to check in more about like, how do we do this, adding things that are not sort of mainstream into, and not even mainstream, because I think Jazmin and I, we've talked about like faith-based practitioners. Like, how do you toe the line? How do you find the line between the ethical practice and where your beliefs are? How do we do that? And I don't necessarily know the answer either. That's why I'm kind of asking it, because I think it is so vague in our ethics codes and in our grad programs. Like there is a real lack of clarity here, which is why there are certain counselors that advertise themselves as Christian counselors, for example. And in some ways, I find that to be concerning because I'm like, well, so you're advertising yourself as having a certain set of beliefs, which sort of, to me, makes me wonder, like, are you going to be available for somebody who doesn't also have those beliefs? And how do you find the line between your beliefs and the beliefs of your clients if they're different from yours? And so I guess to me, there's some similarity here. Like, where's the line? How do we figure out what that line is? I don't necessarily know. What are your thoughts?
Neither.
I think it's something we're still kind of learning and working through, but it goes back to we are taught modalities mostly, not theoretical perspectives. And there's a difference. And so it's understanding what is your main theoretical framework that you work out of. And then from there, you have the modalities, you have your exercise, you have the things that you do. So now when you take something that is a little bit more woo or alternative, how does that reflect in what you're already doing? Because a lot of them do. Like you just have to pair between the two places and kind of bridge them. And this is why I like that particular therapist I was telling you about out of Atlanta, because that's exactly how she teaches people to look at it is this is what, say, IFS. This is what we do in IFS. And these are the people you have got your parts and all this stuff. But then when you say, look at human design, this is what human design is actually doing. And this is just like this over here. And it's just really plugging in, like, where are they similar, yet where are they different? And then, but when it comes to working with clients, it has to be a way where either if you're marketing it, right, if it's in your website, if it's just a modality that I use versus CBT versus TBT versus anything else, it's just another modality. And if you're interested in that as a client, then that's what makes me unique and why you're going to come to me. And if the door is open again to have that conversation, we can talk about how much or how little we bring that into the sessions.
Yeah, giving clients a choice all the way through and making that choice very clear all the way through. That is part of our ethical duty as counselors.
It's interesting because it makes me think about how you, as the professional, being transparent actually and honest about, here are the things that I believe. Here are the things that I think are valuable. And kind of giving the clients then the autonomy and the choice to say, okay, I want to talk more to you because I already know those things about you, which seems slightly contradictory to some of the things that we were maybe taught about, like, be a blank slate and don't bring yourself in this room. And it's not about you, counselor.
I'm not like that at all.
It's confusing. It's so confusing.
I'm not like that at all. I think and the thing is that when we talk about, of course, there's a level of how much you disclose about your personal life with your clients. Of course, there is.
Sure.
But if it's helping your clients and you're showing them you're a person and you're dealing with the same shit, we show that we're human when we're authentic. And that's what I'm all about when it comes down to it. I am not a cookie cutter therapist. Yes, I curse in sessions. That's me buttoned up. That's not me.
Right. It's an authentic experience with another human being, yes. who is committed to be objective. When we boil it down, that's really, I think, what a lot of people are looking for. This reminds me a lot of how Kim Frey describes her counseling relationships with her clients. She says, we had a bunch of really good conversations. If some of them work came out of it or processing came out of it, great. But at the end of the day, we had a lot of really good conversations. And that's what I feel like a lot of time we're doing as counselors. Right. Like just having an authentic experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is probably why client work is so hard.
Probably.
It is.
It's too much energy.
It's a lot of energy.
Such a time and energy suck. Okay. You know what, Shawna? We have not asked you our big question.
Oh my God.
I can't even believe it. What do you wish you had known before pursuing this profession?
Wow. I don't know. What did I wish I knew? I guess I'm thinking the rigidity that came with it and really how to be an alternative type therapist. I don't think that was something that we talked a lot about. I mean, there's probably a ton of things I could probably talk about, like how they didn't tell us about like how to run a business or actually practical applications for self-care or, I mean, there's a lot of things, but I think ultimately it's just how much we're in this box that they put us in. Go to grad school, you work for an agency, you don't have a private practice. I think I wish I would have known more about that. I think part of me is just being a trailblazer, and I find myself, trying to do things that no one has done before and then getting frustrated because I can't find an example to try to model myself a little bit. And then just like, okay, well, we'll just wing it and go with it and see what happens.
Yeah, the experimentation, right? That you talked about.
Exactly.
Just run the experiment. Nobody's done it before. I guess we'll just find out what happens.
For real. So much of this profession is like that. Like once you get to be an actual counselor, you're like, that freedom that you're talking about, that you worked so hard for, it's weird. It's like it's freedom and not freedom, right? Because you're pressured to kind of go into private practice. You're pressured to have this very traditional route, but it disallows for the freedom that we actually want out of this career, which is like, working for an EAP. Like how can mental health counselors like fit into the world in maybe more non-traditional ways? How can we also, I don't know, maybe just like be curious about something that isn't Freud, Adler, Jung, like the top 5 or 10 that I could probably rattle off. Like, can we please step away from these? Because actually I don't know. I mean,
old, dead white men.
White men, right?
Yes.
In a time where white men were thriving, they were making rules that we're still abiding by. Like, when we have hesitation for these, when I have hesitation about, these alternative, new, maybe somewhat woo-woo practices, I think like, okay, but what makes the traditional ones so much better? Like, what?
Yeah. I gotta check that initial bias, maybe. Yeah, that's fair.
Right. And like, what is like, why are we so just like, or like ethically, no. But it's like, there is an ethical way to do this. And it's like, I don't know. Are we really so set on following these old white men's theories about birth order and dreams? Like,
yeah, I think I kind of threw that out the window a while ago.
I remember having a problem with it in my theories class. I stood up and I was like, what does this mean though? Like,
which part? The dream interpretation?
I think it was the birth order thing. I was like, okay, what? Am I supposed to memorize this or what? Like,
well, I think you make a good point too, Jazmin. Like, there is an ethical way to do this, but much like I think the reality of ethical practicing is that it's about being willing to ask the tough questions, being willing to sort of sit and explore and consider and think about both sides of things. And if you're being really ethical, you're doing that hard work, or at least that's the way that I see ethics, as something that is like, you're wrestling with it. And if you're wrestling with it, then you're being ethical, right? If you're just dismissing or ignoring or going automatically with sort of a form that's been given to you and you're not questioning that form, you're not considering pros and cons and what about this? What about that? If you're not doing any of that, you're just basically following the checkboxes, following the form. I don't actually think that's ethical, even if it's something that's sort of standard or it's been accepted within our practice. And so being ethical is harder and more open for interpretation because by its very nature, it's about wrestling with, okay, how does this look? How might it impact this person? How might it impact that? How might it reflect on this? And doing the wrestling is the ethical work.
Right. Yeah. I would start asking what is wrong with you if you're just going along with everything.
Right. Why does this feel so easy?
Right. Okay. I'm also curious about, you didn't talk much about this so far, but we know that you're a podcaster. And so I'm curious about adding podcasting to your work. How did that come about? What's that been like for you?
Yeah. So to be honest, I always wanted to do podcasts. I don't know why. It was because I always listen to podcasts anyway, like
Same.
when I'm on my morning walks or just, driving in the car, whatever. And I always wanted to just do a podcast, but because they tell you can't do it, that's not something you're supposed to do. I never did it. And so a little bit more than a year ago, I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I didn't know what I was really going to talk about, and just decided like, okay, well, a lot of the work that I do with my associates is about life in the middle. Like, yes, we need to be professional, but yes, we're human, and it's all like fucked up sometimes in the middle. And how do we talk about that? Or what can we bring about that? And it's partly authenticity, hence the name Between a Hot Mess and a Therapist. So it's just me and sort of my inner thoughts, or like what I would really think, maybe not something I would, when I decide I want to filter, it may be things that I would not necessarily say if I'm trying to filter myself a little bit. So yes, that's what it's about, really. So it's random things, it's personal things, it's about being a therapist, it's all of it. It's just where we are.
Your podcast style sounds like Jazmin's podcast style. Just turn on the mic and see what goes on.
Yeah.
And then we'll cut out all the rest. I don't know.
I might. I do have notes sometimes. Depending on the topic, I may have some notes. But, and I've been learning to use more of my storytelling within the podcast. So it's just so it can hit differently, hit a little better.
You're such a learn as you go person, Shawna, or at least that's the vibe I get from you. Is that fair?
It is fair. That's fair. And my husband hates it.
Yeah. Jasmine's like that too, and I hate it. So I get it, Shawna's husband. If you're listening, we get each other.
Nah, just turn it on, see what happens. Real quick, Shawna, do you get to implement like one of the expectations about being a counselor is like picking a theory and then using that theory as the guiding, force in your work, right? Do you get to do that in EAP with these like short, or is it more that solution focused, like problem solving?
It's technically should be more motivational interviewing than anything else.
Okay.
But because I tend to be more solution focused, that comes in quite a bit just because I'm like, we need to fix whatever's happening right now. Or there is also a level. Yeah. And there's also a level of like reality type therapy that they have to understand as well. So it's pretty set, but yes, I toe the boundary line for sure.
I would imagine some of the same self-reflective questions that you're using in human design come in handy when you're doing that problem-solving work.
Yes, it does.
Like, how are you feeling right now? Coming back to the present moment. What's working, what's not working. I get what you mean, that problem-solving. You, in a way, an EAP, I imagine, is similar to those high-intensity environments where shit can hit the fan at any time, where people are calling, they're in crisis, and you just have to like triage real quick. Like, okay, are you safe? Where are you?
Yeah, we triage a lot.
Oh my God. I'm flashing back to how you first described your work and your typical day and just all the shit that you do, which is nuts. And then it makes me think about what you were saying a few moments ago around your journey kind of into human design really connected you to authentic or helpful self-care. And so I'd really love it if you could share a little bit about like, what does self-care look like for you? Because you sound like you're constantly juggling a lot of things and like doing a lot of like mind shifting into different types of work and different types of conversations and stuff. And so like, what does that mean self-care for you now?
Yeah. So as a projector, I need lots of rest. It's not necessarily sleeping. It's just rest and downtime and being able to detach. The other piece to that is I have to recognize myself first. So as soon as I get up in the morning, I'm trying to do things that recognize me as a person, as an entity within itself. But I am very body based. So I'm walking, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing, water therapy type things, and just finding moments in my day to detach and rest. And one of the crazy things is I was noticing, this is where I started experimenting. I was noticing that my energy was just so low at the end of the day after working all day. And my husband would come home and be like, what is wrong with you? And it looked like I was maybe sad or depressed. I'm like, oh, nothing, I'm good. And I literally started experimenting in the middle of the day when I take my lunch break from work. I go lay down, just go into bed, lay down, and just kind of take a quick, not even a nap, just rest. And have found that now I don't look the same way when I'm at the end of my day, and my energy is replenished. And it's really just about finding things that feed your soul. So like when I teach clients or when I'm working in EAP, I'm like, okay, we all know that we have to engage in self-care. We all know that. But ultimately, we're trying to get to a place of self-love, and self-care are the actual things we're doing to achieve that. They're the vehicle we're doing to get there. And so it's what is good for you and what makes you feel good, what makes you feel happy and content. But then when you add a layer of human design to that, we go from cookie cutter practices to what is specifically good for you. So it's not just I'm doing yoga, it's a particular type of yoga that I'm doing. It's not just breath work, it's a particular type of breath work that I'm doing, because it's going to sit and hit differently based upon your type versus I'm just checking off boxes for self-care.
It also seems like some of the human design stuff for you informs your experimenting, as opposed to like, I'm experimenting with literally everything. I'm like, I get some direction around where to experiment. Is that how it works? Nice.
For sure.
Yeah, I could see that being super helpful for clients. I mean, and clinicians, all people, but clients especially, they get so overwhelmed when I'm like, okay.
Choice overwhelm, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's like, how are you taking care of yourself? And they're like, I don't know. It's just like, okay. It doesn't have to be a big deal, right? Like, I talk to people about that all the time. Like, just go lay down on the ground for a little bit. Just remember when you were a toddler and you maybe didn't need a nap, but you just needed to go sit and be quiet for a second. You still need that. Like,
yes, for sure. Yes. I definitely have dialed back what it looks like because, initially they tell you here's all the things that you're doing and having these elaborate routines. I just couldn't keep up with it. I couldn't maintain it.
Me too.
And I just literally just dialed it back to the basics. Here's the things that I do every day. Here's some non-negotiables, and keep it moving.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Cause like I always feel a little bit self-critical because I cannot for the fucking life of me keep up with these routines every day. I'm a kind of a routine person, but like for whatever reason, that just never has worked for me. And then I'm like, feel bad about it. So I appreciate you saying like, no, it often looks like dialing it way back and being more selective and intentional about the few things that you prioritize that are small but meaningful, or small but yield big returns. Right? Like 15 minutes laying down in my bed during my lunch break yields a huge return compared to maybe something else.
Correct. Yep, exactly.
Shawna, what advice would you give to new professionals coming into this field, or maybe an associate?
I guess a little bit have some self-compassion, because we're all still trying to figure it out. Even though you've been licensed for however long it is, we're not perfect. And even experience, we're still learning. And if you could just step out of the box and just start to carve your own path and go down that way, you'll end up in a much better place than you were if you just stayed in the box. So just have more self-compassion for yourself in your journey.
Maybe question where you're supposed to be going.
A little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, Shawna, I'm curious about resources that you might recommend to young professionals or just just resources that maybe have been particularly influential for you in your work and your journey. What do you recommend?
So I'll start with a couple of books that are not necessarily in mental health, but there is a book called Balance is BS. That's one. There's another one, Why We Can't Sleep. Those are some good foundationals of not trying to achieve work-life balance because it's unattainable.
Not real.
It's not real. It's not real. Another book is A Little Book of Hygge, Hygge. It's more of a Norwegian, and that kind of goes along of how they're so happy over there and what you can do to kind of create this for yourself. So it's more about environment. It's more about how you're connecting with your community and just to make you more cohesive or calm, at ease. So I'll put that out there. Let's see, what are some other good resources? I don't know. I found some just other therapists that are good resources, like the one in Atlanta. I'll make sure you have her information for those that want to start adding a little bit of woo in your stuff.
Love that. That would be great.
Yeah, those would be the things that I would say, is because most of the time, I think resources really need to start with us as a person. Then, and if you want to get into human design, I'm your girl.
Yeah, Shawna's a resource.
Shawna, I just want to mention this. You and I have chatted before, and it has so stuck with me when you were talking about this impossibility of work-life balance and instead considering the concept of a blend versus a balance. And since you and I talked about that, I've been like chewing on that, and I love that. I so love the word blend over balance. It makes it work, So I'm into it.
That first book that I mentioned talks a lot about that. Talks a lot about that.
Yeah.
It's just, how can you incorporate the two and really just make life comfortable and easy with flow?
Yeah. Like, instead of trying to achieve balance, which is a black or white concept, really, it's one thing. If you think about scales, right? Especially like an old school scale, there's only one way that it balances. It's either balanced or it's not balanced, right? And that creates a problem because, again, there's only one way to do this. And so when you use the word blend instead of balance, that allows for so much more openness and flexibility. That allows for customization. And I've actually started thinking about, maybe you guys have seen these videos, little short videos on like social media stuff, where some artist or painter will show different blends of two different colors. They'll like take two different colors, like red and yellow, and it's like 90% red and 10% yellow. And then they'll show the blend between 75% red and 25% yellow. And they sort of like shift the percentage of each color and then show what the blend, the color looks like. And that makes me think about, again, the customizability of using the word blend over balance. Means like, my blend is not your blend, and that's okay. You're allowed to come up with different blends. And so, man, concept blew my mind. I'm into it. Love it.
This is the most woo-woo Karen has ever been. I just want to let you know that, Shawna.
I'm glad I could bring that out of her.
No kidding.
I mean, did you know that the whole concept around work-life balance started out as a productivity thing?
Of course it did.
70s.
Of course it did.
Yes. Sounds like your old white man again.
That's right. Men.
Yeah.
That does sound like him. A bastard.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Another question about stuff is, what's something super influential think everyone on the planet needs to read, watch, do this? Just, you only get one thing here. Okay, Shawna?
Oh, yes. This is the question.
Half a dozen resources. That's great. But you get one thing here.
Yes.
That everyone needs to fill in the blank.
Yeah, I was waiting for this question, so I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Okay, so this has nothing to do with counseling at all.
Good.
But you have to watch the Marvel movies in cinematic timeline order.
For real.
Okay?
So not just
Because-
watch the Marvel movies, but watch them in a specific order here. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Tell us-
It's a commitment.
It is a commitment because it's like 30-something movies.
Oh,
something
fuck
like
me. Give me like a
But-
truncated version.
Basically, okay, so we all know that movies have their storyline, their timeline within the movie. But when you watch them in cinematic order, you get to see the entire timeline and how all the movies connect.
Okay. All right.
We can thank my son for that one.
I love it. I love it.
So everyone on the planet needs to watch 37 movies in order. Good God. I don't know
I
if I
agree.
can do this one, Shawna. I try to do all the things our people recommend.
It's a
Take your
bucket
time.
list. Yeah, it's a
bucket list.
It's
Take your
before
time.
you die. You
Okay.
have it before you die. You could watch
Yeah.
one a year and be fine.
What if I'm,
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
Disney has it in order.
Sure. Disney
Yeah, of
Plus
course
will
they do.
have it in
It's like a
order.
list I can
There's
pull.
also like tons of lists you can look at. Anyway,
Great.
Shawna, what do you want to plug for yourself? The floor is yours.
Well, I actually just finished recording my Human Design and Burnout podcast style masterclass. So
Nice.
that is rolling out. And then I have shifted my workshops to more podcast style. So that's available as well. If you know any associates looking for somebody, I'm your girl for that. And if you want more about human design, hey, I'm here. And you can find all that stuff on my website.
Awesome. We're going to plug it, man. We're going to
Yeah,
plug it.
it'll be in the show notes.
I love that you've got so many irons in the fire and so many different directions that you're going with all of this. And you're just a really open, easy to talk to person. So
For real. I
Yeah.
feel like I've known Shawna
Approachable.
for a long time. Yeah,
Good. We should do this again.
for sure.
I love it.
Thank
Thanks
you
for having
so
me. It
much.
was fun.
Okay, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. And I actually re-listened to this episode and picked up my own daggone gems. That's crazy. So some of those would be like, we have this path or this journey that we want to be on, but it's not the same as others. Even though we all become therapists, we all become a healer, it's not the same journey, not the same path. I also picked up that, where we plan to go is not where we actually end up. That's how it is sometimes. And then the last one is that really the universe gives us the path that we're supposed to be on. It nudges us in the ways and gives us where we need to go. So if this episode was helpful for you and it sparked something, created some kind of conversation with you, I would love to hear that. Drop me a line, tell me what kind of hit. And then if you feel like you want to know how your human design can help you with your burnout, align self-care, have intentional rest, just managing your energetic blueprint, whatever that is, make sure you download your free chart. If you want to go deeper and get more personal, sign up for human design reading. All the links that were mentioned are in the show notes. Until next time. There you have it, my friends. Another episode in the books. Remember, it's okay to be a hot mess sometimes. It's all a part of the journey we call life. Until next time, stay rebellious, stay authentic, and keep embracing the beautiful messiness of life. Want to learn more about your unique energetic blueprint? Make sure you download your free chart and learn how it can help you make choices that are aligned with who you are and not who society expects you to be. Please visit ShawnaLovinLPCS.com for more information. Anything mentioned in today's episode will be linked in the show notes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe, you share with a friend, leave a review, and keep coming back for more.